welcome to Adara Live. Today I am so excited to introduce you to my friend in North Virginia, Lisa Marie Platske, and she is a leadership coach. And her and I met at the eWomen's event in Dallas just a few months ago, and we were like, I just couldn't get enough of her, and I think she enjoyed my company as well, and I really wanted to introduce her to my community. So welcome, Lisa Marie.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And it was just like, it was like meeting another piece of me. You know, that's what it was like. It was like, oh, yes, definitely. More please.
So you've totally had a whole different background than me in regards to starting sort of in this corporate world and then working a lot with like the government and doing leadership work in that capacity. So tell us a little bit about where you sort of came from and then how you're working with all the tools and skills you have now.
Sure. So, well, I originally started in federal law enforcement, which is a little bit of a different background, stepping into leadership coaching. And from there, got to work into organizations. And I loved what I did in the government. Like I did not ever think I was going to leave. I didn't ever think that I was going to not be in law enforcement. I loved the badge and the gun and the uniform and the exciting work on the piers in New York. I mean, I loved it. It really was because of wanting to live out my values and my husband proposed, and it's really hard to have two competing careers where, you know, he's got his 24/7 career and I have my 24/7 career, and you know, you're doing your best to make the relationship work too. So yeah.
Okay, so you decided you were gonna take a change in your approach to how you're going to create income for yourself, and you use those amazing skills. And now you work primarily with women leaders, would you say?
Yes, women leaders. When I first started, Adara, I did work primarily with men. I think just because my background was in law enforcement, and so there were a lot of men that, just because of the direct style that I have, that seemed to come to me in the both the training and the coaching piece. And over time, I recognized that there were some very unique distinctions and differences between women in how they saw themselves and how they looked at what was possible for themselves. Even the idea of when I would say to somebody, yeah, I just walked away and left, people were like, what do you mean you walked away and left? Like, how did you do that? And so that's what actually led me to working primarily with women leaders.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, when you come up against the work that you're doing and with the women that are inspired to work with you, how are they able to tap into their own leadership style, or what sort of blocks or things are they needing to sort of overcome to really, really step into their fullest in being a leader? Because I think we're just not used to that role, you know, in a whole, with our whole history. And this is sort of like new territory still for us to find our own sort of like, you know, abilities and to know how to showcase those in a way that feel good for us.
Yeah, you speak about both like DNA and like the internal wiring, and then there's also just some of the stories that have been passed down about women in leadership. And for me, I don't have this formula that says, here's the things that you've got to do. I mean, I believe in, I've done research on 7 pillars of leadership. They're my 7 pillars. However, it's not that you live out the 7 pillars in the same way that I live out the 7 pillars, because we're different. We're wired differently. So for me, when I'm working with people, I'm really looking at, you know, what are your behavioral preferences? You operate? How do you look at time? How do you manage your own energy and what you do? And so I have the 7 pillars as foundation. However, it's really more about learning about your personality style and ensuring that there's a customized approach for you that's unique and different. And when you speak about those elements that many women actually go, okay, like, well, you know, how do I not be too much like a man? Or how do I not do do things in a way that allows me to be fully seen, both as a woman, I mean, just as a beautiful creature, as well as, someone who can be taken seriously, somebody who can be valued and appreciated for the leadership that they bring. And so much of that, you'll hear people talk about authenticity. Yet, what does that really mean? What does authenticity mean? And I go to 3 areas of both vision, vulnerability, and voice. So what's the vision that you have of who you want to influence and what you want to affect, to really understand how to utilize that authentic style? And then vulnerability, how comfortable are you in sharing pieces of yourself that may seem like they don't matter or they don't make sense? And I'll come back to that in just a minute. And then the third piece is the piece about voice, being able to speak your voice and speak your truth. And so if I use my example of me in law enforcement and going back to the vulnerability, I always thought that being in uniform, having a gun, meant no vulnerability, didn't really make a difference. Like in fact, it was doing everything I possibly could to hide the fact that I was a woman, right? Right. It was like, let's pretend that instead, you're just a different version of a man doing this job. And that really didn't serve me well. And I learned that when I was able to tap into why it was important, my own vision, when I was able to be truly vulnerable and get curious with the guys, and when I was able to use my own voice and speak my own truth, that I ended up becoming recognized. I positioned my expertise. I was able to be the fastest promoted officer in the agency. And really that's what led to me opening doors very quickly in my business. And so it's not like some tool that you use to manipulate. It's not something that you just toss in your bag and go, okay, I'm going to use this strategy now. It really is, how do you become the most authentic version of yourself? And I found that it happens through vision, vulnerability, and voice.
Absolutely. And are you able to share those 7 pillars with us, or?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, of course. So the 7 pillars, one is the plan. So they all start with P, just like Platske. And so P, for the first one being plan. And so let's start with a written plan, begin with the end in mind. The second one is understand your personality. And that means that there's parts of it that will hinder your plan, and there's parts of it that will incredibly help and magnetize your plan. The third one is powerful partnerships, creating powerful partnerships, understanding the power of leverage that comes through deep connection. And then the fourth one is priority. So not the word priorities, the word priority, having one thing that you move towards, one thing that's your thing, and understanding what that is. And that one is a real challenging one, because oftentimes there's messages that say we should be doing more, we should be doing this, we should be doing that, really to be effective and grow a business or make a difference. And when you get real clear on the one, there may be other opportunities that show up, but having the one is important. And I've met a lot of people who kind of try to straddle the fence and be all things to all people.
Yeah.
So that's number 4. Number 5 is create a meaningful and memorable presence. So this is your executive presence, and there's 3 different components to that. And those components are the here and now, being present and understanding what that means through mindfulness. The second component is understanding what to say, who to say it, and how to say it through the gentle art of positioning. And the third piece is around gratitude and really being able to be grateful for what is, even if it's the biggest challenge you've ever experienced. And so that's all about creating a meaningful and memorable presence. And what's interesting about that is I remember going to business events years ago at the woman, we just always seemed to travel in the same group. And she would always say to me, how come people remember you and they don't remember my name? And I said, a better question is, what are you doing to ensure that they remember who you are? And so creating a meaningful and memorable presence is your responsibility, is my responsibility. It's our own individual responsibilities. So that's 5. And then 6, I love 6 because 6 is one of the ones that challenges me greatly because it's the pillar of progress and profit. And it challenges me because evaluating what's working, what's not working, what you can do differently is something that isn't a once a quarter, isn't a once a year activity. It's a everyday activity. And so sometimes I'll get to the end of the week and go, oh my gosh, like, you haven't looked and you've gotten, you've been writing and you've been writing and you've been writing and you didn't go back and go like, hey, is this still what you really want? So there's that part where I love this one because it challenges me. And then the final pillar number 7 is professional and personal development and becoming the best version of who we are. Right. And so many pieces to that as well.
That's
So
so
those are the
beautiful. Yeah. I love it.
And they're not linear. Like, that's the greatest thing. Like, it's not like you go from one to the other to the other. Like, it really is saying like, okay, well, now I've got the plan. Well, but I better evaluate. I better go to that progress. Like, have I really gotten very far on this? Is this really what I want? Oh, maybe because it's not my priority. And so you jump around. They're not oops, I checked the box. The plan's written, so I don't go back to it. Oops, I figured out my personality. I don't go back to it. Like, it's constantly being in that dance.
I agree. And I think that's the most beautiful part about leadership for myself too, is always sort of exploring it and never thinking that I really have it right. And always coming up with like new ways to inspire basically at the end of the day, because I know for myself, I'm not here to create followers. I'm here to create other leaders. So as are you, I'm sure. So it's like learning how to, inspire others to find their own style and their own unique way of showing up that then creates that impact again for more leaders and more change makers and more of the evolutionary vision I have in regards to our consciousness and like what's possible in our lives, and for everyone to feel fulfilled in their journey and not suffer so much. That's sort of where it's at for me in that regard. And you too, I'm assuming. So like what lights, okay, so here's the Adara question. What lights you up then most in the work that you get to do?
What lights me up, hands down, is that my vision is creating a world where everybody wins.
Yes.
Everybody means even the people where I don't understand their viewpoint, where I'm not perfectly aligned, a world where everybody wins. And that is big and bold, and it challenges me to evolve and grow my own leadership and who I am. As you say, the evolution, the consciousness. If it was a world where everyone wins, it means that the planet that we live in, wow, like we've got world peace. Like, we've got all those other things because people are working together. And so that inspires me and touches me deeply. And that's the biggest part of my work.
Me as well. That's so awesome. So what I'm going to do for my crew is I'm going to add your link and stuff below, because you have an amazing retreat coming in January. And you also do a lot of work in your hometown as well with different intensives and gatherings that you put together. And you attract a lot of amazing people that have the same intention as we do. And I think it's just learning how to keep growing that fire, if you will, and spreading the way that it can be for us, and all working together to create that abundance, because I believe like the planet is this gorgeous home for all of us to feel nurtured and enjoy, and it just takes people to wake up sort of to that idea and recognize that there is no need for competition or the idea that we're fighting against each other, that we can really all have what it is that we're really desiring inside. And it takes a lot of our inner work, right? And then the outer work just happens. So it's so awesome. I just so enjoy you. Is there anything else you want to add before you go?
I said no, my head said no, but my heart is saying yes. And that is really that the world needs you and your brilliance. So that is something that I always like to remind people, that the world needs you and your brilliance. And so when you do your part, the world is better. And when you don't do your part, the world misses out. So, so just adding to what you share, that's the big piece for me.
Love it. Okay, well, I encourage you all to follow Miss Lisa Marie. She is just a little light beam over there in West Virginia. And I'm going to bring her out to Vancouver soon. So be ready for that. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. And again, Lisa Marie, thank you so much for your time and your incredible wisdom. And I love those 7 pillars. I might even post those P's because I think people were really like digging that and then probably wanting to go a bit deeper. So we'll definitely leave them with some details.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Have an awesome rest of your day. And don't go anywhere.